Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Thanks so much for joining back in. You might have noticed I've been fiddling a little bit with the audio each one of these podcasts. I'm trying to figure out what works best. So bear with me as I try to get better at doing this. So I wanted to chat a little bit today about something that kind of is going to probably feel a little different than my usual message and my usual tone. And, that is related to when is it time to accept defeat? When is it time to accept failure? When is it time to embrace that failure and that defeat? And that's just gonna go, a little different than what I usually talk about on here, which is kind of the message of work hard, keep going, set your mind to something, make it happen, all that stuff. And all that stuff is still very true. This podcast does not negate any of that. Like, that is still firmly what I believe. But I also believe in listening to what the universe is trying to tell you. And I also, believe in it's okay to change directions. So I want to use my own personal journey as an example to talk about this, because, the catalyst for me starting this podcast, well, it was a YouTube video channel before it became a podcast, but the catalyst for me starting, that YouTube channel, which then became this, is I always wanted to have and operate my own horse farm. When I was younger, it was something I was really passionate about. I wanted to have my own horse farm. I wanted to train my own horses. And the most important piece of the puzzle is I wanted to use horses that I rescued / retrained as therapeutic horses for people struggling with, physical elements and anxiety and depression. And that was kind of always my goal. That was always something I wanted to do. I wrote, a college paper about it. Like, I studied it in college. Like, that was always kind of my thing that I wanted someday. Not that I had to have it immediately, but I wanted it someday. Fast forward through my life, I graduate college. I graduate as a nurse, with a nursing degree, nothing to do with horses. The horses were always like the side hobby, side passion thing. It was never a way to make income. So I graduated undergrad with a nursing degree. I lost my one horse that I did own. I lost in college to colic. So I graduated. I did not have a horse. And instead of jumping into getting another horse after I graduated from undergrad, I really focused on getting my career profession underway, getting my career underway, learning the trade, learning the skill, and then ultimately, I went for my graduate master's studies in nursing and got that, and then took a great job with a trauma and critical care program, and really threw myself into really learning and perfecting and just being the best I could be at that skill set and at that trade. And I never had horses through like that, whatever. It was probably like 10 years. 10 years post-college, 10 years after I lost the horse that I had in college. The goal in the back of my head was to always get back into horses. But I kind of made the logical decision to really take that time and focus on my profession, my career, getting stronger in those skill sets and setting myself up to be financially stable and able to take on horses and a farm in the future, with having a steady income. So that's what I did for about 10 years, give or take, after I graduated college. And then about 10 years down the road, I got my horse that I have now, Cheyenne. I got back into riding. I got back into training. Ultimately, got back into barrel racing, and kind of that's where our story takes off. So, in that time, after I got Cheyenne and after I got back into riding, again, the dream, the goal, all that stuff, it had always been have your own farm, have your own facilities where you can take in rescue horses, you can retrain them, rehab them, both with the potential for them to be performance horses for yourself, but more importantly, to use them to help other people who are struggling with something, whether it be physical elements or, mental stuff, anxiety, depression, things like that. So that was always the goal. So, that being said, my husband and I tried to purchase so many farms. Like, when I tell you that we looked at so many properties and we put offers in on so many properties, I mean, I'm not exaggerating. I mean, it's at least several, if not in the mid-teens, in the amount of properties that we put offers in on. Not properties we looked at, but properties that we submitted offers to purchase on. And none of them ever panned out. And, honestly, it was devastating going through the process because it just felt like, everything you wanted, everything that you dreamed of just like wasn't going to happen. But now looking back, I'm really actually grateful for how things panned out. So that's what I want to talk about on here today. And again, it kind of is going to be it's a little different vibe than what these usual podcasts are about, because usually it's very, don't stop until you get what you want. Keep trying. Like, you can have anything you want if you just work hard enough. Like, that's the vibe of most of my podcasts. And I do believe that. I still believe that. I still believe if you want it bad enough, if you do enough, if you work hard enough, you can have it. I wholeheartedly believe that. But the point of this particular podcast is when is it okay and when is it the right time to just say, you know what? Maybe I need to just give up on this. Like, maybe this isn't right for me. Like, maybe the universe is trying to tell me something. So that's what I want to talk about on here tonight. If you're not a fellow barrel racer, you may not know who Fallon Taylor is. If you are a fellow horse person, you probably do know who Fallon Taylor is. But, I listened to some of her podcasts, and I've heard her say this before. It's a story that goes like this. There's a massive flood in the town, or something of that nature. I'm going to get this wrong. I'm kind of putting my own words on it. But there's this massive flood in the town, and there's a guy in the house as the flood is coming in, and a police officer comes by and says, "Sir, you got to evacuate. There's going to be a flood." And the man says to the police officer, no, it's okay. I'm cool here because God is going to save me. And then a little bit later, the water is rising, and then a rescue guy in a boat comes by, and he says, "Sir, you got to get out of here. Like the water's rising, like you're going to drown." And the guy says, "No, I'm good. Go on with your rescues because God is going to save me." And the guy in the boat goes on down the road. And then a little bit later, now the water is up to like near the roof, and then a helicopter comes to try to rescue the man. And the man says, "Nope, like go on, rescue other people because God is going to save me." And the helicopter leaves. And the man eventually drowns, and he's in heaven talking to God, and he says, "God, why didn't you save me?" And God says, "Well, I sent you a police officer, and then I sent you a boat rescue, and then I sent you a helicopter rescue. Like, what more do you want from me?" And again, I can't take credit from that story. That comes directly from listening to Fallon Taylor, but it is kind of food for thought. And sometimes when the universe is talking to us, sometimes we just need to listen and kind of evaluate and hear what it's saying. So going back to my personal journey and my personal story, like I said, we spent a lot of time, we spent a lot of effort trying to find and buy this farm to make these dreams that I had come true, and to make this vision that I had come true. And it just, for us, just did not work out. Now, could we have been more aggressive? Could we have said, hey, we're moving across the country to a place where, maybe lands and farms are more affordable? Or could we have, done something else drastic in our life to make it where it could happen? Like, yes, of course. Like, if we had identified that, like, this was the end all be all and, like, we're going to make this happen no matter what, of course. Like, then, revert back to what I say in all my other podcasts, which is, if it's absolutely what you want no matter what, like, you can always find a way to make it happen. But in my personal situation I'm speaking about, that wasn't really the case. Like, we didn't really want to make a drastic, to make really drastic changes and move to a part of the country where we weren't close to any family, or move to a part of the country where maybe we weren't close to airports where we could travel to see family easily, or move to a part of the country where we didn't have the ability to like work and make income. And like, there were other factors involved in the decision making, but ultimately it was like we just kind of failed at what we were trying to do given the circumstances at hand. And now I'm at a place. So that is what triggered me starting to do the YouTube videos, which ultimately rolled into this podcast. Because again, one of the reasons I always wanted to farm was to use horses to help people with anxiety, depression, and mental health things. And when the physical farm didn't really seem to be coming to life, I was like, well, okay, like, let's get creative about this and see if we can try to fulfill that goal in another way. And so that's what kind of bred life into the YouTube videos, which then turned into these podcasts. So that's one thing. The other thing is, like, I look back on all that, and look, if somebody gifted me a farm tomorrow, like with pastures and a barn and horses, if somebody just gave that to me tomorrow, 100%. I'd be happy about it. 100%. I'd be grateful to take on the challenge of running it. 100%. Like, there's still that part of me that's like, yeah, that would be cool. But, when I look back over the last handful of years, my mindset has changed a little bit. Since the time that we were aggressively hunting and trying to buy land and farms and all those things, like since that time, I have had my experiences with my own two personal horses, which I board, at another farm nearby. But, it's a self-care farm, so I'm in charge of everything for the horses. Like it's like it's my farm, only I own, I only own, a couple of stalls and one pasture of it kind of thing. But I've had so many experiences over the last handful of years that just makes me look back and think, wow, I'm kind of glad that it didn't work out the way I wanted it to work out. I'm kind of happy that it didn't work out the way I wanted it to work out. And let me talk about that a little more in detail because, sometimes what we think we want might not actually be the thing that we think that we want, and or it might not actually be the thing that is best for us. And, so I've had my two personal horses now for several years. And over the last handful of years, again, the place I board them at, the farm I have them at is a self-care farm. So, I basically rent the stalls, I rent the pasture. It's like it's my own farm. I'm responsible for everything. Nobody else does anything. Like I have to do everything. So it's kind of like it's like my own little farm. I just rent this little piece of it, for my two horses. And in the last handful of years, man, we have gone through it. Like, I've had soundness and health issues with my one horse. I've had my other horse colic and need emergency surgery last year. Bad falls the last couple of years, and I I was in a lot of pain and a lot of hurt after that. Like I did not bounce back so quickly after falling off and having those injuries. So that was a lot to deal with. And just over the last, like I said, handful of years, just dealing with these two horses and trying to make sure that they're the best they can be, I'm the best I can be, everybody's the best that they can be. It is a lot, and it is a lot to deal with both physically, emotionally, and financially. It's a lot. And, I kind of have a new found perspective on what it would actually mean to run and operate my own farm with multiple different horses. And and I should mention too, like I've seen now over the last several years at a couple of other farms that I've been at, I've seen now also the struggles with boarding horses. Like you have boarders who have their horses, stalled with these farms and they're not taking appropriate care of the horses and like that's the whole thing and that's the whole problem. And like, just knowing what I know now after being in the game for this amount of years, I just look back and I'm like, you know what? I think I'm really happy that the farm idea never actually worked out the way I wanted it to work out. And I'm really glad that life is looking the way it's looking. I mean, currently I have my career, my job that keep me financially secure and keep the bills paid. And, I know I can take care of my two horses and give them what they need. And I also know that, like, if I get thrown off of a horse one day or fall off of a horse one day and God forbid get hurt, like, my livelihood is not based on the horses or riding the horses or, a physical job like that. So and I want to make sure I say this on here. This is not to say anything negative or to project anything negative towards anyone who makes horse and equine activities a living or a lifestyle, because I admire anyone who does that. And like I said, I wanted to do it. Like, that was something I wanted to do. So, I admire you guys out there doing that, and I think it's awesome, and, I love it for you. But me and my personal journey, I'm happy the way things worked out. Like, looking back on it, I think it worked out really well, actually. Like, I have a career, I have financial stability that doesn't involve the horses, so if physically I can't ride the horses, I still have other means to make income. And, and the setup I have now allows me the freedom and the flexibility to take the horses on the road and go to these big barrel races and explore and enjoy that experience. Not being tied down to being, on a farm or running a farm and dealing with all the maintenance and all the issues and all the financial issues that come with owning and operating a farm. And, I don't know if anybody out there listens to these YouTube videos or listens to these podcasts and or what they get out of them, but this whole path that I've been on has really funneled me into doing these videos and this podcast, in an attempt to maybe reach someone and help them with their mental well-being. And you know what, like, if this podcast takes off and, like, it can reach people around the country, like around the world even, which is far more of a reach than I could do from a farm, a local farm, like in my backyard. So there's a lot of, when I think about how it has gone and how things have happened, there's a ton of positivity to it, and there's a lot of reason for me to look back and be thankful and grateful that it didn't work out the way I wanted it to, and that instead it worked out differently than I wanted it to. So give that some thought in your own life. Again, most of my talks on here are going to be geared to, going after what you want. Don't give up. Like, don't settle. Like, make it happen. If you work hard enough, you can do it. And I wholeheartedly believe that still. But I also, on the flip side, believe that it's okay to accept something different than what you originally thought. I think it's okay to have a logical conversation with yourself and just say, you know what, I know I wanted this at one time, or I know I dreamed about this at one time, but actually, this new thing is better, or this different thing is better, or this new thing is okay. And it's okay for me to let what I wanted previously go. It's okay for us to change what we think, what we want. It's okay for us to evolve with time and as we know more and as we have more information. And there's an old country song that says some of God's greatest gifts are unanswered prayers, and I'm such a believer in that because again in my personal experiences, there's been things that I've wanted so bad that I have not gotten, and I come out on the other side kind of grateful, grateful for the failure, grateful that it didn't happen, grateful that the universe steered me in and towards a life and a path that actually ended up being better for me. So, give that some food for thought for your own life. Sometimes it's okay to take the failure. Sometimes it's okay to take the change of direction. Sometimes it's okay to be like, you know what, that didn't work out. I tried. I could try harder, but I tried and I failed, and maybe it's okay to just pivot. Maybe it's okay to just change, what I thought this was gonna be like. And also allow yourself to be okay with loving a life that looks different than you originally thought it would look. Like we have these visions of what life needs to be in our heads from a very young age, and things change. We change, what we want changes, the world around us changes, information changes. Like what you wanted years ago may not be the same thing that you want now. And that is okay. It's okay to evolve. It's okay to continually evaluate your surroundings and continually evaluate your feelings and what you need and want to be happy. And it's okay to change. It's okay to adjust. It's okay to evolve. So moral of this story is just always be truthful with yourself. Always be honest with yourself. It's it's hard to be honest with the people around us, but I think honestly the hardest job is to be honest with ourselves. Having real, raw, honest conversations with yourself is one of the hardest conversations that you'll ever have. So, it's important for us always to be having conversations with ourselves, always be asking ourselves questions, always be, evaluating ourselves as far as where we are in life, where we want to be in life, what, is triggering the needs and the feelings that we have. Have those honest conversations with yourself. If you really still want something, then of course keep charging after it, because if you put in that work and you put in that dedication, you're going to achieve it. But also be empowered to say, you know what, I've tried at this and it's not really working out the way I thought it would work. Is this even really what I want still? Is this even where I really want to be still? And if the answer is no, like, be empowered to be okay with that. Like, let the universe, guide you where you need to go if that's the case. All right. I hope everyone has a great, rest of your day and week, and I hope everything's going as well as possible for everyone out there. And thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to talk to you again very soon. All right. Bye.